Spotlighting Hawaii's leaders.
We want to bring in Governor David E.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Lieutenant Governor, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Mayor Derek Kawakami.
Thank you so much, Senator, for being here.
Spotlighting the issues.
Where is the virus right now in our community?
How much is this overall going to cost the state?
How are you responding to the community's concerns? Talk about the level of citations that you guys are writing.
Spotlight Hawaii with Yanji Denise and Ryan Kalei Suji on the digital platforms of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. This episode of Spotlight Hawaii is brought to you by Chaminade University.
Well, good morning, and thanks so much for tuning in here on this Wednesday morning. I'm Ryan Kalei Suji, joined by Yanji Denise, and this is Spotlight Hawaii. We want to thank you so much for tuning in. As we see those case counts continue to rise, 647 cases reported today with 2 additional deaths. Of course, we know that these rising case counts not only, of course, is impacting our hospitals and the infrastructure there, but other departments within the state. And today we're going to get an update from one of those departments.
That's right. We are talking to Hawaii's Unemployment Director, Perreira-Eustaquio. She, of course, takes care of the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. You folks have been so busy during this pandemic, and you're so gracious to join us every month. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me again. Good morning.
Good morning. So we've got some news to talk about this morning. We had hoped, your department had promised or had hoped to schedule in-person appointments starting in September, but it sounds like there's going to be some changes to that. What do you have to share with us this morning?
That's correct. We are notifying the public today that we will not be opening to in-person appointments on September 7th. It's become extremely difficult to ensure the safety of the community, our customers, and our staff as the level of COVID-19 transmission increases within the community. And so we know that, and we recognize how equally important it is that we continue to service the public and provide the services that is highly needed. And so we are implementing several new initiatives come September 7th in place of opening in person.
If you can expand a little on what those services look like, because we do know that there still is a demand. There are still people who have a lot of questions about their claims and may have a difficult time getting into the call center. So what are the options now that this in-person appointments that were scheduled to happen next month are essentially put on hold?
Right. So there are 4 brand new initiatives that we have planned. We've implemented a couple, and we plan to implement the rest on September 7th. So we recently announced that we were going to do adjudication appointments. So adjudication appointments are those appointments where a claims examiner needs to reach out to an individual claimant who has a pending issue and to obtain fact-finding and make a determination under unemployment law on whether they are eligible or not for benefits, obtaining fact-finding of both the claimant and the employer. And so we've started that, and the first appointment will be heard on the 23rd of this month. And it's the first time we actually are going to have appointments for that process. We've been having a very difficult time reaching claimants. We thought if they made an appointment, they knew we would be calling, it'd be easier to get to them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, please continue.
So the other initiative is to expand the general or regular unemployment insurance appointments that we've been seeing in the last several months. Instead of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we are expanding that Monday through Friday, adding additional claim, what we call customer service reps to help with this process. The third initiative is to implement phone appointments for PUA. That is something that claimants have been asking for. And so now the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program will have appointments scheduling to start on September 7th as well. And then for the last implementation we're implementing appointments for employers under the Employer Services section for online filing and tax questions.
Are these in-person appointments suspended until further notice, or do you have a date when you hope to actually see people in person?
So we'll continue to assess the situation and hope to again be able to announce when the new date will be for opening of in-person appointments.
We have some questions here that, of course, we'd like to bring in. We have Kat who's asking, what happens to claimants that are on regular UI after September 4th expiration and still have balances? What can you say for those in a situation like this?
Right. So if someone is on a regular unemployment insurance claim, not an extended benefit, so not PEUC or PUA, then as long as they have a balance and their benefit year end has not yet ended, then they can continue to receive benefits.
I want to ask about the whole back pay issue, or not back pay, but people required to pay back. Larry has a question here. He said, and this is kind of long, so I'm just going to throw it up here and then we can summarize it. Basically,
Okay.
that people are receiving disqualification notices and required to pay back money. This actually happened to a friend of mine, and they were told that they have to pay back thousands of dollars, and so they're very concerned, obviously.
Right.
What is the process for that? They were hoping, this person that I had spoken to was hoping to have an in-person meeting to kind of clear the air on that. But what are you telling folks who have, in some cases, have received a notice that they owe thousands of dollars? Obviously, a lot of that money's already spent. They don't have thousands of dollars to pay back.
Right. So it really depends on the circumstances. Some claimants owe an overpayment, but it's just set against new payments that are supposed to go out, or we're going to adjust it so that either one program pays for the other program, where there's some type of an adjustment. So you'll get paid for PUA, and that way you'll get additional funding then to pay for the overpayment for UI program, or vice versa. If you actually have an outright overpayment, then that's something that you would schedule what we call our internal security section, and they would handle a payment plan if you needed one. And I can make sure that there's information on our website, our Hawaii unemploymentinformation.com website, on just that question.
We know that, of course, the federal support that has come through is coming to an end here in September, and there are many people who have questions about what that date is, when exactly all those benefits that were extended will come to an end. Can you provide any updates on the timeline for when that will happen? Because initially it was set to be around Labor Day, but because of the scheduling of the days of when it falls on, things could be adjusted. What updates can you provide us on the actual date of when that expires and what people can expect once that happens?
Okay, so for Hawaii, our week ending date is September 4th. So that's the last payable week of benefits. So on September 4th, there will be no more payments for any additional weeks. But claimants do file their week ending September 4th the following week, which is September 5th, through the end of the week, through the Saturday, sorry. So they will get their payments the next week, but the actual payment for a week ends on September 4th. So the extended benefits, which falls under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, will end. Not only will the extended benefits, which is PUC, PUA, and FPUC end, but also the waiting period. So claimants right now did not have to wait a waiting period. Claimants will now have to have a waiting period. So the first payable week would not be something that we would pay out in benefits once the waiting period is reinitiated, as well as work registration. So claimants who are continuing to receive benefits will then have to register with our workforce division in order to continue to receive unemployment insurance benefits.
Okay, and this is another PEUC question from Sean saying, what happens if you are on PEUC federal extension and still have a balance as of September? Will you be able to claim the balance? If not, what happens? If you're not making enough hours, can you still collect unemployment?
So on the PEUC, even if you have a balance, there's no payments that can be made to be paid out after the week of September 4th. Now, if you have weeks prior to September 4th that we have not yet paid out yet because a determination was not yet made, we will make you whole and we will make sure you get paid those weeks. But any balance after September 4th for future weeks will not be paid out.
This is an interesting question as we have more and more employers that are requiring vaccination for some of their employees. John is asking, if we are fired for not getting vaccinated, can we still collect unemployment? And they're also thanking you for your hard work there. But if you can speak a little to that question specifically, but also what you're seeing with those individuals who may not decide to get vaccinated when their employer does require that.
Right. So we are seeing a lot of questions in that arena come through. And so I want to let everyone know that, unemployment is really a case-by-case basis. And so unemployment insurance benefits are generally available for eligible workers that lose employment through no fault of their own. And so the department will have to do an adjudication issue. So it will go to a claims examiner to analyze whether the discharge for failure to comply with a vaccination requirement is misconduct or not, and whether the quit to a vaccination requirement is for good cause or not. And so each determination will be separate in themselves.
This sounds really complicated. How do you decide whether someone is, is sort of justified in refusing a vaccine versus someone who isn't?
Right. So that's what a claims examiner goes through, every time they make a determination on eligibility. And so we would look at employer policy, what their policy is, the nature of the work being performed, the claimant's personal circumstances, any other relevant facts on why the individual could not be vaccinated. Not one size fits all. And so each determination would be a case-by-case basis.
I'm wondering if you can give us an update right now of just the numbers that you're seeing. Obviously, we know that in the beginning of the pandemic and then throughout, there were so many issues with the backlog, with the mainframe that caused so much people to have to wait. And you guys have worked to get through that backlog right now. What are you seeing in terms of volume, and how many people and claims out there are still waiting?
Okay. So we do still have claimants who are waiting, but I could tell you that the numbers have dropped drastically. We don't have claimants who are waiting where a claim was never touched, that they've been waiting from the very beginning. So all those back claims have been worked on. We do still have older claims that are waiting on overpayment determinations that need to be made. We are having claims waiting on what we call DNA, did not accept work, and employer reports that the claimant did not accept work, and whether they're eligible for regular benefits or they didn't accept for a qualifying reason under PUA. So we still do have those types of determinations that need to be made. But I could tell you on a weekly basis, many issues are still being created. So we have lots of claimants who are receiving what we call RR issues, reporting requirement issues, where they're not in their reporting location for some reason or another. They're not allowing their location to be known, or they have a VPN that's on that makes it seem like they're out of country. So we have many issues still outstanding on a daily basis. Every time a claimant files, brand new issues get created.
I wonder if you can speak to the specific numbers of that. How many people are receiving benefits right now, and how does that compare to the height of when you folks were sort of slammed with that tens of thousands of people needing assistance?
Right. And so I can tell you from about a month ago, those claims have not changed greatly. And so on the PUA side, we were seeing about 16,000 claimants still being paid PUA benefits, meaning they were still eligible. They were still not back on their feet with self-employment work, and so they were still receiving benefits. On the unemployment insurance front, the regular unemployment insurance filings, they are still pretty level from last month. They have not changed. We're hoping that claimants will be able to go back to work, since benefits will be ending on September 4th, and it will be hard for many of those who can't move on to their initial claim that they opted off of to stay on PEUC, or create a brand new initial claim with additional earnings that they've made.
We have another question here from Rowella, who's asking, my employment insurance benefits end September 5th, but I'm still furloughed, not back yet to work. Can I apply for unemployment insurance benefits? If you can speak to those specifically in the furlough category, who may just be waiting to get back into a full routine, that obviously is different from someone who is just completely unemployed. But if you can speak to this question and the furlough situation that is also out there.
Okay, so there's several different levels of furloughed individuals as well. So we have some furloughed that never went back to work. So they haven't received any additional income or partial income from an employer, or wages that could qualify them for an additional claim. And that's what we look at. You have to qualify with additional earnings to qualify for additional claim. Then we have those who are furloughed and have been working part-time or just part-time hours and received additional earnings, which could possibly qualify them for an additional, what we call a new initial claim. And that's what we're going to have to determine moving forward on what those earnings look like and whether claimants qualify.
Sean actually has a follow-up to the question, and I think it's something that is relevant. He says, so what is the next step? Apply for regular unemployment when PEUC expires in September because we lose that remaining balance. What is the next step for those folks who are on the PEUC, that even if they have the balance that expires on the 4th, as you noted?
Yep. So like I said, if you never went back to work and you didn't receive any additional benefits, you wouldn't qualify for a brand new claim or regular claim, because you need earnings to qualify for a claim in the last 18. We look at the last 18 months of employment. And so you really have to have earnings to qualify for a new claim, just like any time that you file for unemployment insurance benefits. But if you did go back to work and you were receiving additional earnings, then you could possibly qualify for a brand new claim. And that you would have to apply. We would have to look at your earnings and determine whether you do qualify for regular benefits.
Early on in the pandemic, we know that one of the issues that you're dealing with is just a staffing issue to be able to accommodate the workload that you're doing. And we know that multiple times have you been on the show, you've actually put a call out for people to come in and apply for jobs. What can you tell us about the employment sector in your own department and what you're seeing, if that is still a need, and if you do have enough bodies now to handle some of the workload that is currently being asked upon your department?
Right. So the unemployment insurance staff and our HR staff have been working extremely hard to bring in new employees. And I'm happy to say that on the adjudication front, we have staffed up, and that's why we're able to now offer appointments for adjudication. And so that's helped greatly. We are continuing to try and hire for the call center. So I'm going to put out that call again. We still need agents in the call center. It goes up and down. It's ebb and flow. So we have a high level of employees, and many of them, I have to say, have been called back to work. So they are going back to their jobs that they were furloughed on at one point. Others, this is just not the job for them. And others have just found other great opportunities because lots of employers are looking for workers. And so we're still continuing to look for agents in our call center.
There's a couple of questions here about PUA. Susan wants to know, and Dan has the same question. What's the next step for those of us on PUA, speaking specifically after September 4th?
Right. So after September 4th, PUA will end. Normally, there are no benefits for those who are currently qualifying or eligible to receive PUA through this extended program. And so once PUA ends, once the extended benefits as a whole ends through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, there will be no benefits for those individuals who actually qualified for PUA and do not qualify for regular benefits.
Do we, as the department looks ahead to, what the future looks like, and, in listening to some of the numbers that you're saying of people that are still on these benefits that are being offered, knowing that will all soon come to an end, what is the department doing to prepare for what could be a lot of people who are still looking for jobs? I mean, I imagine that the effort now must be, all right, we're getting these people off unemployment through this federal support, but there's going to be a need to help them get into jobs because those services are no longer available. How is the department helping to plan for all those people who will no longer have the service?
That's right. So that's the other area of the Department of Labor that we oversee as well. So we have the Workforce Development Division that works on programs to help not just the claimants who are on unemployment, but the unemployed as a whole, or those looking for new careers, to help them through the pathways to find new careers, to find new jobs. And so the American Job Centers are open. They are there to help all individuals either obtain new employment or additional employment. Many in Hawaii, as you know, have more than one job. And so the American Job Center is there to help these individuals with the help of the Workforce Development Divisions who are overseeing these programs. And so if you go to our HawaiiUnemploymentInfo.com site, under the resources, we have the what we call HireNet Hawaii, where you can look for job postings, and as well as the American Job Center location, so that you can reach out to job centers to help you look for jobs.
Christine Donnelly, who writes the Kokua column, has a question. Given the nationwide COVID-19 surge, do you expect any of the federal benefits to be extended in the 11th hour?
I don't know, Christine. we're not hearing anything on our front. Normally we hear some talk of, additional benefits coming down the pipe. We haven't heard anything. As soon as we know, we will let the public know. I know that there are many who are going to be hurt by these programs ending. And so we're waiting to see as well.
We know that many people are just overall concerned and worried about the fact that their benefits will be coming to an end. They relied on this, of course, during this time. And there seems to be some concern for people that are still waiting. What reassurance can you provide that those people who do have claims that are still pending, that the department is going to go through those claims, that even though the deadline has expired, that the department will continue to ensure that you guys are looking into these claims and that simply everything doesn't fall off on September 4th?
Right, most definitely. I can tell you that I'll make sure that happens, first of all. But with our general line now being expanded to 5 days a week, we are going to have about 525 appointments a week just in our regular unemployment insurance program. And so hopefully those appointments every week will start to cut down on the backlog, and those claimants who really need help can get through to get the help they need. On the adjudication side, we are going to have about 360 appointments a week on the adjudication. We're not only handling adjudication through appointments, though. We are still continuing to use majority of our claims examiners to continue the process that we've already started, which is calling each claimant to make sure that we address their issues that are outstanding. Also, our call center is still up and running. We take about 500 calls a day at the call center. So we are continuing to service claimants, and we're going to expand those services come September 7th. And I assure you, we are going to continue to work on claims and make sure those back claims are being paid out. Also, a very important information for claimants to know is that if you were one of those individuals who were able to qualify for what we call the brand new initial claim and chose what we call the $25 option and to stay on your PUC claim, you will then have the option on September 5th to move back onto your brand new initial claim. But I want to stress that in order for you to continue to move through your PUC, end that program, and move on to your brand new initial claim as of September 5th, claimants have to make sure that they file what they call their last week filing, which is the week ending September 4th, by September 11th, so that there's no problems in moving on to their brand new initial claim. If they do not file their September 4th filing by September 11th, they will have issues moving on to their brand new initial claim.
Peter Yee has a question, and it's sort of one that we covered a little bit earlier, talking about people who are now being told to pay things back. He says, what is going on with examiners calling Uber similar claimants and advising they may be disqualified from the onset of claims and required to pay back all monies? So this is the idea that suddenly you are hit with a $5, $10 or more $1,000 balance, saying that you were disqualified and actually have to pay back.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I can think of in that arena is that Uber and Lyft do not readily report earnings to the department. The department's audit section has to go out and obtain earnings. If a claimant does not report those earnings to us, also to let us know that they received earnings during the time where they were filing and receiving benefits, then they will owe unemployment insurance benefits. And so if you can't receive both. You can't receive payments as an employee, and Uber and Lyft for Hawaii purposes are currently considered employees and not independent contractors. And so you can't receive benefits as well as employment wages.
Every time that we have you on, there are many people who have so many questions about when they're going to get contacted. Many people waiting for months and weeks and want to just, have an opportunity to connect with someone in the office. And I think many people were looking forward to those in-person opportunities. But now that you are expanding your hours, what would you say to those individuals that are still waiting and haven't heard back for months now? Should they reach out again? What would be the best way or the best method for them to sort of break through, especially given the fact that you're now expanding some of these services?
Right. So I could tell you, I check on a daily basis what it looks like on the appointment front, how many claimants are making appointments, how many we still have left over, and what the intervals are of how quickly those appointments are going. I tell you right now, they're very slow going on the adjudication side. And so we still have appointments because we let claimants file for appointments 2 weeks out. We still have appointments that have not been taken yet for the 2 weeks out. So I tell them, please log on to our site. You can actually go onto our HawaiiUnemploymentInfo.com site, and right there on that site, click on the alerts, and it will send you to the appointment site, and you could sign up for an appointment on the adjudication side. As soon as we upload the appointments for extended regular program to the expansion of our regular appointments, as well as PUA, we will be announcing that through a press release as well. And I'd advise you to come on and sign up for those appointments as well.
You know, our time is winding down, but I wanted to ask you, just looking sort of on the broad picture, what our employment rate is looking like right now. We hear a lot about, you know, restaurants and retail and other industries that are hurting for workers and that need to hire, and there seems to be this disconnect. But how many people in Hawaii are unemployed at the moment, and what is the labor market looking like from where you stand?
So in June, so we don't have the numbers for July yet. And so it looks like tomorrow our numbers will be out for July. But for June, the unemployment insurance rate was 7.7%. In May, it was 8%. So it is decreasing. In June of 2020, our unemployment insurance rate was 14.1%. And so it was almost double what it was in June of 2021. And so we know that the unemployment insurance rate is going down. We know that claimants are going back to work. Individuals are being called back to work. And so we are hoping that with the jobs that are out there, we are hearing from employers that there are many jobs that they are still really trying to fill. We're hoping those claimants who have not yet been called back to work or have not gone back to work will then look for those opportunities.
And as we close out here, just wanted to provide you with one final thought as we close out this morning. Again, as we heard earlier from you, that the in-person appointments that you're planning for will have to be put on hold because of those rising COVID cases. Your final thoughts about that? I know that is a blow to many who were looking forward to that, but any other final thoughts that you may have this morning?
We were definitely planning to open on September 7th. That was something we were gearing up for. We put a lot of work into opening on September 7th, but I felt it was the most prudent thing to do on both fronts for our staff as well as the community to make sure that we kept everyone safe. And so we made sure that we took action in providing services to our public without in-person appointments. And so we are actually being able to service the same amount of individuals we would have serviced if we opened up the offices to in-person appointments. And that's why we've expanded our telephone appointments, and we'll still be able to service claimants as much as we would have been if we were open.
Okay. And Perreira-Eustaquio, we really appreciate you being here. So much information, and thank you so much for answering all of these questions this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Well, some big news there, Ryan. You know that unfortunately, because of the rise in cases, 647 today, seemingly no end in sight. We are seeing these numbers every day, you know, 500, 600, 700 cases a day. And for that reason, the unemployment office, along with a lot of other offices, libraries, for instance, today closing as well, saying that they're not going to have those in-person appointments because they just don't feel it's safe with the rise in cases and the Delta variant in our community. That said, she did outline, and if you missed the top of the show, when this is over, you can go back and watch it. Also, you can download the podcast later this afternoon. But she did say that they are going to be offering a variety of alternate services, more telephone appointments, and really, you know, ramping up the adjudication on their end virtually as opposed to doing the in-person. We know a lot of you are disappointed by that, but they just felt, as she said at this time, that it's not safe.
Yeah, and we know that, you know, as she mentioned, there might actually be an opportunity to see more people with these claims, with these appointment times, and being able to service them virtually than in person. And so they're hoping to do whatever they can to get through some of those backlogs. And we know that there are still so many comments and questions out there about those individuals who have been waiting for months. You heard her mention that there are still appointments available, and to definitely make sure you visit the website to sign up for the alert so that you can be alerted when there is an available time. That seems to be the best case right now for those people who are waiting for some of those more specific claims to be answered and questions that they may have about the process. We also got some insight into those individuals who maybe let go of a job because they choose not to get vaccinated. We heard from the director that all those will be handled on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. And I think that will be pretty challenging for those adjudicators to have to go case by case, depending on how many people decide to separate. It's not a guarantee if you get fired because you don't take a vaccine that you will be qualified for these benefits. So that is something to consider. Also, I know that a lot of you are worried about the end in the plus up and PUC and PUA come September. She did say that so far they're not hearing about any extension in benefits. There were some questions there later about, will there be an extension in benefits? It does not seem likely at this point. Of course, that can change, but that would have to come from the White House. And she says from where she sits right now, she's not hearing that.
And we'll be able to get a better glimpse of what the unemployment in the state looks like in the coming days. So be sure to stay tuned to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser for that update as we wait to see what July's figures look like, as many in Hawaii continue to be looking for jobs because of the pandemic. On Friday, we're shifting gears. We're going to be speaking with someone who always gets a lot of questions and someone who's been getting a lot of attention in the press these last few days, and that is Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. He will be here on the program to answer your questions and give us an update on the COVID-19 status here in Hawaii.
Yeah, he was actually supposed to be our guest on Monday, but he got called into the ER. He, of course, is also emergency room physician in North Kohala on Hawaii Island. So he got called in to go help with the rising COVID cases and to help handle the surge of patients that they're seeing. So we'll get his perspective as a physician and also as someone who is heading up the vaccination program and the Safe Travels program. There's been a lot of calls for them to reinstitute pre-travel testing. Is that something that could come back? We're going to be asking all of that on Friday. So please do join us here at 10:30 then. Until then, stay safe and we wish you a great day. Aloha.
Aloha. We'll see you then.
This episode of Spotlight Hawaii was brought to you by Chaminade University.